Hello nerds and welcome back to the channel and happy spooky season. I know it's early, whatever. So today we're doing something a little different because I'm starting a new thing for spooky season. Super excited, Halloween fun. So maybe you didn't know this about me, but I love scary stories and true crime stories. They just intrigue me so much. So I thought, why not, while I'm building these like sim builds and stuff like that, why don't I tell like true crime stories or some scary stories about some like scary stuff, Wouldn't that be cool? So if you join me, if you like my Sims Build and Chill streams on Twitch or my speed builds, I have changed my Sims Build and Chill to Sims Build and Scare. So I do those like usually on Tuesdays. And so yeah, instead of like just like plain chill music like I normally do, I'm gonna start telling like scary stories and stuff like that. I actually started last week, but So this build that we're working on now is for my household for my new Let's Play for Halloween as well. Yeah. And today, while we watch the speed build for it, which I started on my stream, I am going to tell you one of the stories that I told on my stream. Maybe go like a little bit more in detail. I'm a little more focused because I'm only gonna tell this like one story. I had 3 stories that I told and I picked one of those 3 stories and I'll be talking about it today. It has nothing to do with the house, but I thought because we're building a haunted house, why don't we start out with haunted houses? So yeah, let's jump into it and start and I can start telling you about the Watcher House. I got my note right here. Let's get into it. All right. I've heard this thing like be called multiple things. I've heard it just the name of it be called like the Watcher because that is what the person calls themselves, and then I've also just heard it called the Watcher House. So I'm gonna call it the Watcher House. But yeah, and normally when you think like true crime scary stuff, you think like, oh, this happened so long ago. This happened in 2014 and that terrifies me. And it's not necessarily haunted. I just thought like it's a creepy house story. So let's get into it. So yeah, this happened June 2014. Pretty much Maria and Derek Brodus bought this house that was, the address is like 657 Boulevard in Westfield, New Jersey. The house is 6 bedrooms and it was worth $1.3 million. That's an expensive ass house for what they're about to go through. That's all I gotta say. It's not all I gotta say, but here we go. 3 days after moving into their lovely home, they got a letter in the mailbox, and from my understanding, it wasn't really like, I don't know, like there was like not really an address. It was just like written on it was like to the new owner or something like that, like on the envelope. I don't really know if there was like an address on there, if it like went through the mail, if someone just left it in there. There's no like evidence, like no one saw anyone leave it in there. I don't know. There was a letter in the mailbox and it said the new owner. And it was basically like, hey, welcome to the neighborhood, we love to have you here. Psych. It was like, welcome to the neighborhood. Hey, by the way, I've been watching the house for a while now. The last owner, I watched them. They took care of the house. It's cool. They refer to themselves as the Watcher, and I know a lot of people, like, they say he referred to himself as the Watcher. I don't know, this could definitely, we don't know who it is, so, like, I'm gonna say they, because that makes more sense in my head. But yeah, they refer to themselves as the Watcher, and they mentioned how, like, their grandfather in like the 1920s watched over the house, and then in the 1960s their dad watched over the house, and now it's their turn to watch over the house, and they've been doing that ever since. And then they're just like, oh, who am I? You know, maybe I'm someone walking by on the street. Maybe I'm someone, you know, driving by. There's so many windows. Maybe I'm looking through the windows. Being just really fucking creepy. So of course, oh yeah, and they like already had like specifics about the family, and they had only been in there for like 3 days, so that was kind of creepy. And they knew that they had kids, because a big thing was that the previous owner didn't have kids, and they're like, ooh, you got kids, cool. So of course the Brodus family reached out to the previous owners, and they were like, hey, did you have anything creepy like this happened? And at first the previous family was like, oh no, not at all. And then they're like, well, actually, we did, like, right before we moved out, we had a letter that came in the mail that was referenced the Watcher, and it was like kind of like thanking them, so they didn't think anything of it. Still kind of creepy though. I still would have brought it up personally, but you know, I don't know, maybe they just didn't think anything of it. The Brodus family went to the police, and the police were pretty much like, hey, let's not like bring anything up yet. It could be one of like your neighbors. Someone could just be salty that someone new is moving into the neighborhood. I don't know. So 2 weeks later, another letter was left. The family hadn't moved in yet because no. Well, also they were like doing renovations on the house, and like they didn't want to move in yet. The renovations kind of pissed off the Watcher. They made notes like, oh, I see you're like renovating the house, like it's so beautiful, why would you do that? They also had like a lot more details about the family in this one. And okay, so they said like they wrote down Maria and Derek Brodus, but like the names were spelled wrong, so it was as if they had heard the names but had never like seen the names written down. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so they also had like more details about the children in this one, like who was the youngest. I think there was 3. So they knew like who was the oldest, who was the middle child, and who was the youngest. They didn't necessarily know names, but they knew which each one's like nickname was and what they were called like while they were at the house. So once again, this person is listening, and that's creepy. They are very close. They're not just like across the street. They are up close and personal. Also, this letter mentioned the artist of the family. I think it was like the middle daughter. Don't quote me on that. But one of their daughters loved painting, and she would paint on the patio, and she had an easel. Where she was on the patio, there is no way you could have been able to like see her, unless you were like looking, like you were like inside the house, or like looking straight through, like right up on the window. I don't know. It was in a spot where you could not see, so how did they know? But, you know, they referred to her as, like, the artist of the family. Fucking wild. Yeah. They talked about how the house, had secrets, and so the house had secrets, and they were asking what rooms they were going to be using. Like, what were you all going to be on the first floor? Were you going to use some of the rooms on the second floor? Were the kids going to be allowed in the basement? Because like, oh, their screams can't be heard in the basement. Will they be allowed in the attic? There's secrets in the attic. Like, just like creepy ass shit. Like, this is just like getting creepier and creepier. I fucking hate it. So they were kind of like, you know, they were asking like, oh, because it'd be really helpful if you could just tell me, but I'll figure it out anyways, even if you don't tell me, you know? So needless to say, they stopped bringing the kids to the property. Thank goodness. This was the best decision they made. Best. They also like postponed the move-in, because honestly, I would just be like, no, I'm not moving in. They posted the move-in even more. And a few weeks later, another letter came. This is the third letter. And the letter's like, hey bitch, where you been? That's like literally what it said. No, it said, where have you been though? Like asking, like, you haven't been here in a minute, where are you? The house misses you, I miss you, baby, what's up? Kisses. Very creepy. Very creepy. So the thing is, there were no fingerprints on the letters, no digital trail. Okay, I don't get the no fingerprints. We'll get back to that. Okay, so there is a portion where they're trying to find a suspect, and they say that the DNA on it belongs to a woman, but then they also say there's no fingerprints. So I get a little confused by that, I guess, because there's obviously something, but I don't know. No fingerprints, no digital trail, no like direct suspects. Yeah, the family is going through it obviously at this point. Dad's depressed. Mom has PTSD. They're both paranoid. They don't want to go to the house. They're freaking out. It's terrible. And obviously, like, that's scary as shit. They sued the family, the previous family. They're like, hey, you should have told us that something creepy happened. And I don't know what happened to that. I didn't look too much into it, but they did sue. I assume nothing happened, to be honest. They tried selling the house. No one was gonna buy it, obviously, because by this time there was, like, media coverage was starting to happen, so people knew what was going on in the house, and like there was a watcher, which is super scary. They almost sold it to a person, but the person who wanted to buy it said they would only buy it if they could take the property, split it, and build, like, tear down the house, split it, and build 2 separate houses on the land. They had to take it to the city to ask for permission. They did that, and the city said no. And like the city, like the people in the neighborhood had to vote on it, like, yes, no, and they said, and like the people voted that they didn't want to do that. Side note, apparently a few months later, I don't know, within like a very close time frame, someone very like close to, like, just like a block away wanted to do the exact same thing, and they got approved. I don't know why, but keep this in mind, because, like, just keep that in mind. Just keep it in your noggin, because I'm sus of this neighborhood. Just fucking saying. Anyways, where are we? So eventually they get a couple to rent the house from them. It's an elderly couple. They have children who are like out of the household. They got 2 dogs, I guess. And in their lease it says that if another letter shows up, they don't really have, like, they are allowed to just leave, like, no questions asked. If another letter shows up, they can go. And of course, 2 weeks after they moved in, another letter appears. In the letter, it starts out to the vile and spiteful Derek and his wench of a wife, Maria. How fucking, like, calm your fucking tits. That's too much. Anyways, so in the letter, the Watcher talks about their supporters and how they have an army of, like, people, I don't fucking know, who did exactly what they were told to, and he was they're like so proud of, I don't know, it was just like, yeah, like, just fucking spewing about, like, my followers followed my orders, I'm so proud of them, like, my army, my blah 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 blah. Fucking weird. It was just fucking weird. Also, like, mentioned, like, a bunch of, like, terrible accidents, like falling off a bike, getting in a car accident, plane crashes, yada yada. And, like, I don't know if it was, like, insinuating these are all the terrible things I could do to you, or all the terrible things that could happen. Just fucking weird. Like, they've all been weird. What can I say? Oh, and then it also said, like, you are despised by the house, and the house has won. I don't know what to tell you, Watcher, but the house is still owned by them at this point. I don't really know what has become of the house since then. But anyways, the renters agreed to stay, but more cameras have been installed. Yada yada, and that's like kind of like as much as like the research I looked, the like closest date was like 2019. And so like that was like the last of like what most people had heard of it from my understanding. There might be more on the situation, but this is kind of like what I found from like looking into it. Anyways, so we're gonna go over some suspects, and once we go over this list of suspects, I'm actually going to tell you who I think it is. And yeah, let me also just preface that one of the things that I listened to a podcast to get some information on it, and this was the podcast I listened to the first time I heard about it, and it was Morbid, a true crime podcast. When I tried to re-find that podcast, I could not. I don't know if it got deleted for whatever reason, if the Watcher came for them, whatever. But then I found a BuzzFeed unsolved mystery, you know what I'm talking about, and they had a video up on it, so I'm assuming I'm fine. Knock on wood. Sorry, I knocked on wood and I forgot that I have a dog. Anyways, suspect number 1. So people call him the gamer. I don't know. He plays video games. He's just a guy. I don't even know his name. Around 11 p.m. one night, 2 detectives saw a car stopped outside of the house, and I guess they were suspicious of it. I guess if you're really desperately looking for people, I guess. But anyways, the car was traced back to a young woman, and the young woman's boyfriend lived on that street. That seems like a pretty normal scenario, but I guess they brought the girlfriend in for questioning, and she was like, oh yeah, like my boyfriend's into playing video games, and like he plays some pretty dark video games, and one of the video games he plays a character named the Watcher, so that is kind of creepy. Okay, so I think this one is really dumb. Okay, also, they asked the guy to come in for an interview. He agreed to, but then he never showed up. But they couldn't really do much about it because there wasn't really enough evidence, I guess. I really don't think there's no possible way. Well, like, I mean, there is a possible way, but, like, I think this is the dumbest suspect. Like, no. Honestly, someone mentioned, like, if you take like someone who doesn't play video games and they always like talk about how video games are corrupting people's minds and blah blah blah, but like realistically video game players are like, what the fuck, no, I just played a game. Also, he was probably playing The Witcher, so it was probably not the Watcher. Girlfriend just probably doesn't know. I don't know, she probably just doesn't know what she's talking about. There wasn't enough evidence. This guy was whatever. Next person is the suspect is a neighbor named Michael Langford. The Langfords lived in the house next door. He lived with his mom, who was 90, and then like his siblings, who were like all like in their 60s. I don't really know how many of them there were, but also like, why are you living with your mom if you're in your 60s? Unless you're like taking care of her, but why are you all living there? That's just really weird to me. So he was noted as strange but harmless, which, sorry, no, that's not, no, if he's strange, apparently he would like look through people's windows and like walk through people's lawns, and you know, the neighborhood's still stuck up for this guy. Fucking weird. He was questioned. He got like kind of offended when he was questioned, which, I mean, don't all criminals get offended when just fucking saying. There wasn't enough evidence though. They did, however, also, my third suspect that I have on here was his sister Abby. Because, and it was because one of the letters had like female DNA and they thought maybe it was her. They did like a match thing, or they did like a test thing on her DNA, and it was not a match. So she was off of the table. And so was Michael, because I guess there wasn't enough evidence. But if you ask me, I don't know. They're kind of suspicious. I also think that they could possibly be like in on it. But I think it's more than one person. But we'll get back to that after this. The fourth suspect that is kind of like main suspects is the Brodus family themselves, because the locals were hella sus of them. They were like, you moved from a $315,000 home to a $770,000 home to a $1.3 million home with refinanced mortgages. Oh, like, how did you do that? Like, what? Like, also, like, they thought like, oh, they got like way into like over their heads with like money, and they thought like, oh, maybe they needed like a quick way to like sell the house, so they thought, ooh, like make it sound like, I don't know, just like come up with this like big scheme to like get out of the house, to get, I don't know, maybe like they were also getting like a lot of media coverage and like movie offers, so they were like, oh, you're just trying to get a quick buck. But like, I don't know, it seems extreme for like the trauma they were going through. Like, their children were going through trauma. That's really messed up. But the number one reason why people think it's the Brodus family is because you remember the like split lot like debacle thing I was talking about. So I guess like soon after that was refused, a lot of the neighbors got a letter that said it was from friends of the Brodus family, and it was like, you better not like hurt the Brodus family, we're really good friends of them, yada yada. So that letter ended up being from Derek. But like, honestly, do you blame him? His family was being put through hell. So yeah, that's like the fourth suspect. If you want to know what I think it's the whole goddamn neighborhood working together. I think they're a tight-knit community, and I think they got a little pissy because this new family was moving in and they weren't up to their standards. And I think they were like, let's like try and creep them out and get these guys out of here. So that's what I think happened. Kind of fucking weird. Yeah, so I just think they're a bunch of assholes. But anyways, I hope you guys, that's the story of the Watcher. I hope you guys enjoy the builds, enjoy the haunted house. My Let's Play that will be in this household will be coming out soon, if it's not already. Like, I don't know which I'm going to be posting first. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. And I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!